This is Pro One Theologist channel. I'm Dr. Jason W. Morrison, New South Wales, Australia. If you haven't already, please like the videos that you watch, subscribe to the channel, and most of all, leave your comments. Let's start our next teaching. Well, believe it or not, viewers, this is my 5th attempt at trying to make this video. I've had incredible strange things happen during these recordings. I've had to go and try and do this again. This is about a shooting in Queensland, Australia, where police were shot. My daughter being a police officer, not one of the ones that was shot. She's a police officer in New South Wales, but it has sent ripples through the police community about awareness. There is not a job that they can go to that's not dangerous. Let's turn to Romans chapter 7. This is my point behind this. When I heard that this family that was involved in this had a Christian background, I became very interested in this story because one of my firm teachings as a theologist relative to cults and things, and I'm not saying these people are in a cult, because the Baptist church is quite a healthy group of people usually. Not saying that the Baptists are responsible for what's happened here, but there is a Christian upbringing involved in this. Now, I'm not making any suggestions towards this man or his family, I'm not. But what I am saying is there's principles within the Bible that not everybody's aware about or want to accept. And one of them is that our sinful nature and passions, our twisted, warped, evil, bent, horrible nature which leads to death and wants to cause death, is aroused by the things we think we need to do to make God happy or stop him from being sad. All right? They're aroused by the law, the things we think we need to do, or that God's told us to do to make him happy or stop him from being sad. This let me make it clear that the Old Testament Mosaic rules were given to the Israelis at that time, and when Christ died on the cross, those things were done away with, that we should no longer be slaves to sin. See, who delivered me from this body of death? I thank God through the Lord Jesus Christ. It was the finished work of Christ that done that. And Paul says when he was under the law, sin was aroused exceedingly. And he became exceedingly sinful. Well, how does he know this? He was going around killing people. He most certainly wasn't loving his neighbour. And so that sin through the commandment became exceedingly sinful. You've got to understand, there is nothing we can do or not do to make God happy or stop him from being sad, except thank him for the gift of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I'm going to go through this video of this father, and let me just say, I'm just not pointing my finger at this man, right? But he's come on telly and he's done this interview, and I want to go through it with you. Please join me as we begin this very interesting interview with this father.
A dad in shock. Ron Train is the father of police killers Nathaniel and Gareth. Tonight he talks about how his sons went rogue. Ron Train spoke exclusively to Chris Allen.
You don't stop loving your children, Chris. I never stopped loving them, and I describe them as two boys that have completely lost their way in life.
He's the retired Baptist pastor reduced to tears by the actions of his sons.
What a horrible way to have to experience at the end of your life. Really, honestly. Remember, Eli fell off the back of his chair when he found out what happened to his sons, his two sons, which he just let run wild, to be honest. he didn't even try and discipline his sons, or possibly did, but there was nothing he could do to stop them from sleeping with the women that were bringing offerings and taking from the offerings. And these guys were completely out of control. And again, this poor man, he had no way of preventing any of this. How could he? We don't know what his rules and regulations were in the house as far as, God might do this. If you don't, God will do that. One thing's for sure, they were all estranged. These children, when they grew up, they had nothing to do with this man.
Gareth and Nathaniel, who unleashed a hail of gunfire on police, killing 2 young officers and a neighbour.
They've been demonised in the press, and I can understand completely why that's occurred.
They've been demonised in life. These people rang the police, we found out, lured them to this property, and then opened fire on them without... These people were just going to do a missing persons inquiry. They had no idea what they were walking into. They were shot dead like animals. And then the 2 that come into the property and was shot on the spot, they had no clue what was going on. They were still alive apparently, and they come out and assassinated them on the ground. The lady, I've heard from the police, the lady that was taken down begged for her life, but they still shot her to death on the ground.
Yeah, and
that's demonised.
I can understand how the police feel.
Do you accept any responsibility for what's happened here?
Absolutely not.
Massive question. Massive question.
Yeah, and I can understand how the police feel.
This is a
Do
massive
you accept
question.
any responsibility for what's happened here?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Now, what was going on in this household when these children were little? I know what... I was a pastor once. The pressures, the strains, the kids running around, the way in which you can hurt these children through your own frustrations and trying to get order. To some extent, there is no order. You've just got to go through the motions and, 4 children's a lot to manage. I don't care who. 4 children's a lot to manage. And we don't know what was going on in this house. Did he spare the rod and spoil the child, or did he over-discipline them? We don't know. But I can't think of it. You don't hear stories about people not, getting on with their children for over 23 years.
I can't. Those decisions were made as adults. I can't accept responsibility for something an adult made.
The first Ron Train knew about the shocking events that unfolded was when police knocked on his door first thing yesterday morning asking for a DNA test to confirm Nathaniel was one of those shot by police in the gunfight which left 6 dead on this isolated bush property.
Now look at the police vehicle. My daughter said that there's the open windows. They blasted this thing like they were in a war. It was like a war zone. She said the reports are it was like a war zone. Look at the gunfire on the front of this police tactical vehicle. I'm surprised more police weren't killed.
What was your reaction to what had gone on?
I think shock, Chris. I delayed shock because it wasn't until last night I had a complete meltdown late last night, and I cried out to God. It's because I'm a believer.
So he's put in his little evangelical spin.
I just could not understand how something like this could have occurred with 2 children who'd been raised by my late wife Gwen and myself with certain beliefs.
Right, with certain beliefs, and they're beliefs that we will not know what was going on behind closed doors. We just won't know. How can we know? How heavy-handed was it, or how negligent was it? Was it one way and then the other? We don't know. What were the rules? We don't know. We don't know. And I'm not surmising or suggesting but obviously they were brought up with certain beliefs. Well, why didn't the reporter say expound on that?
Christian beliefs, but they went down this dark track, which we have no understanding of.
Looking at the...
Well, does he know Romans 7? Because there's a lot of ministers that don't, and their children go off the rails and they never recover them. In most cases, they rebel. How many pastors' children have you seen just go astray because the pressure's all too much for them? The rules are all too much for them. We are not meant to be under the Mosaic law. We're just not. And these little bits and pieces that they bring into this corrupt their children with deceitful lust, and they don't want to abide or obey. They just want to be left alone, so they go away. And they do the opposite because sin has taken opportunity over them by the commandments that these people have placed on them.
The family album, the boys who were 2 of 4 children look like any happy family.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Look at this kid. I wouldn't say he looks all... These guys look happy, but this one doesn't. He doesn't look happy at all.
In their early 20s, Gareth and his younger brother...
There you go. There you go. He doesn't look happy.
Nathaniel cut all ties with their parents.
We were heartbroken. Gwen and I were both heartbroken. We tried to find the answers within ourselves, whether we were responsible, but we weren't. We had to eventually, in the end, say that they've made this decision as adults, and we couldn't do a thing about it.
Ron says the 2 brothers were always close, but as a teenager, Gareth became hard to manage.
The only child that was difficult was Gareth. He was very volatile, very controlling. We had troubles.
Okay, so he was an influencer. This kid had some kind of certain influence.